can only see you. This is killing me. The way I love you. But every time I try to get close to you, I don't know how I break into. No matter when or where, there's nothing I can do. And yet I only think of you. And yet I only think of you.
Welcome everyone to the LEC 2023 season finals live from Berlin, Germany. The road to Montpellier starts today, where all eyes are set on the crown as our teams fight for their spot in France and a ticket to the World Championship. Our 4-week journey begins today with Spring Split champions Mad Lions facing off against the newly dominant XL in a match that I cannot wait for. I'm Ender here with Goldborg, and we are going to be joined by Shocks.
What?
Have you been sleeping there?
What year is it?
I thought we were just going to do because it's season finals. I didn't realize you were going to be back.
It's season finals?
Yeah, that's
I
why I'm
slept
doing
for 2 weeks. Where have you guys been?
Here? Where have you been?
Here, obviously,
Wait,
sleeping.
you were here too? What do you guys do? I went home and was like
Season
enjoying
finals.
the grass outside because we had a break, but
Well, excuse my... I'll fix it
do you
later,
even know
but
what's happened?
What's happening? What are the season finals? What's going on?
Well, season finals because we had winter,
Yeah?
then spring, then summer.
Those are all seasons?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shields.
yeah.
This is for like the actual trophy. This is the big one, the big deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
I
this is
see.
winning EMEA. This one.
The bracket right now. You look at it. BDS,
Oh.
G2, Mad XL. One of these teams wins. They go to Worlds.
Wait. XL? How did that happen? Can anyone fill me in?
So I get it, because you only saw them when they got 10th place twice in a row.
twice.
Yeah, so they got 2nd place. Yeah, they went on this slingshot ridiculous turn. They brought in Peach,
Okay.
really fun new jungler for them. And
Took G2 to 5 games in the
Yeah.
old bracket. It was
And
insane.
I'll raise you on that. Oda Wamne, by qualifying for season finals, getting 2nd place, eliminates former team Koi from the competition. So you'll notice they're not here.
Whoa.
Yeah. How'd you like
Koi
them
is-
apples?
match.
Yeah. Koi isn't even here?
No, 'cause
That's some drama.
Yeah.
I'm sad I missed that. But what about Vitality? Where are they?
hey.
Yeah. So much like Yamato, they kind of disappeared.
Yeah, it was a bit disconnect. They were not playing together at all. It was a tough look for
Yeah,
them.
they disconnected their jungler.
But you gotta explain something to me. You gotta explain something to me.
Yeah, what's up?
So XL made it, right? But we're at the season final, so I can see how a team like G2, because they did well, like all year made it,
Sure.
and they're the most recent champions
Yeah.
in summer. But what happened with XL then?
Championship points.
Okay.
All right. So there's like basically either you perform like above average the entire year, and off of points, off of the 3 splits, you can get in there, or a team like Excel, they turbocharge their points by winning at the very end when it matters. Like the only way they made it here was finishing in 2nd. Because they did so badly before, they needed that.
This percentage of scenarios when summer started out, 17.43 or something like that, around those numbers.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And they actually managed to overcome all those obstacles.
It's crazy because when I look at kind of the upper round 1, G2, BDS, Mad makes sense. Like throughout the year, they've been doing well. Excel peaked really late, but then below, Fnatic. they're in there still too.
Well, that's another team like very similar to an Excel with the addition of Noah on the bot side. This team has been insane.
And not only that, you probably remember Koya, they're not here, but they traded supports. Trimby's on Fnatic in summer.
What?
That is like the worst trade deal of all trades.
Yeah, but from Fnatic's perspective, that's the art of the deal right there, sir. They really got the better end of that stick. And yeah, they were phenomenal during summer. In summer, they looked like one of our best teams. Top 2 for sure. But it was a little bit of a rocky state.
Best teams. I gotta say, before I fell asleep, I got to looking at some stats and some VODs. And how was the level of play?
Oh, we're great. We're awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're winning
best.
worlds. The best.
Okay.
Honestly, the other region should be
All
scared
good.
of us.
So should we be scared just of G2 or?
All
I
of
think,
them.
okay. So honestly, the last split was kind of strange because I felt like we had a few teams that went through like really big overhauls. The trades between Koi and Fnatic, of course, Vitality being the super team that fell from grace, and then also you have Excel stepping up. So I feel like we've seen like the start with some of these teams, and now, especially for an Excel and Fnatic, this is where we see how much staying power they have towards the top, and that's where I'm going to get full-on confidence bought in these next few
Yeah,
years.
absolutely. I think it's still catch-up for a lot of the other teams, like we're used to at this point, but they also had a break, so it's hard to see how much they've actually been able to make out of this break, because it's been good practice weeks for these teams. Some of them have been taking time off, and some of them, we'll see what actually happens today.
And super important, I guess, because this is now for all the marbles. It's the first time we had these season finals. So this is it. These are the teams that are going to be here.
100%.
All the rest gone. And in fact, I believe that whoever wins their best of 5 this weekend goes straight to Worlds.
Yeah, for the upper bracket, that's certainly true. You locked it into the top 3 there. So yeah, that is monumental stakes for some of them.
And for clarification, top 3 is a spot at Worlds.
And Montpellier.
Yes, agreed. 4th place, that gets you into the qualifying match versus NA. So that little...
I mean, I can see why some teams would want to do that as well. Okay, but I feel up to speed. I'm awake. Let's get going. Job done. The show begins. You're gonna...
No, I'm kind of...
Calm down.
Yeah, that was a lot of effort we just did there. So let's play a video so we can just chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to the LEC Season Finals. For the next 4 weeks, 6 teams will fight to be crowned the 2023 LEC Season Champions, and we'll be jumping from patch 13.13 to 13.15. Here are the major changes. First up, we have a brand new champion. Neferi is enabled both for the LEC Season Finals and Worlds. The Hound of 100 Bites is ready to hunt down her enemies, and she is not alone. Through her passive We Are More, she can spawn packmates that attack the targets of Neferi's abilities. Her Q, Darkin Daggers, will cause them to leap to targets hit, and her W will send both Neferi and her packmates dashing towards a delicious meal. Grrr. If Neferi casts her ultimate, the pack increases, gaining a burst of speed, vision, and a shield when Neferi attacks a champion. We'll see if the LEC teams dare to let the dogs out, as we've yet to see the champion in any of the other regions on 13.15 at the time of this recording. Now over to the top lane and the return of another bringer of death, Aatrox, or Aatrox if you want to pronounce it correctly.
There was a memo.
He received some significant buffs on his Q, which led to him rising in priority in the LCK on patch 13.14.
He wishes he could do anything as... Oh, God! Look away! Cover your eyes!
Now, on 13.15, these buffs have been toned down a little bit, but Aatrox should still be a lot stronger, especially with his new Lethality Duskblade build. G2 fans, please look away.
The enemy jungler shy is going to be fighting so many people!
Ivan was changed on 13.15 with buffs to his supportive abilities and nerfs to his damage. The tree's best friend Daisy will no longer be the terrifying monster she was on 13.13, but overall Ivan is still pretty strong.
Does use the blast contact. Okay, so you walk up, you Q the blue buff, blast code over, Q it, take the wolves. No! There he is! Yes! Boom! Oh! That's the Ivern tech. He's a good Ivern.
Kaiser was one of the most popular picks both in bot and mid lane, and on 13.15, we should limit the power of the Daughter of the Void a little bit with nerfs to her base stats, her Q, and her W. In addition, Static Shiv, Kaiser's and everyone's favorite item, received some nerfs to its wave claim on 13.14, which makes it harder to destroy minion waves at lightning speed. However, we still expect to see Kai'So and others continue to build the item in the LEC this week.
The kill advantage.
The LEC will be on patch 13.15 all the way to Montpellier Occitanie, and the stakes are now higher than ever, with spots at Worlds also on the line. Who will adapt the fastest and earn a chance to play on the biggest stage? Find out as we hit the Rift on Saturday.
And thank you very much to Medic, of course, for making that video very detailed and in-depth. But there's so much more to this patch as well in terms of what we can expect for pro play. And I know, Yamato, you've been scouting, you've been looking, you've been theorizing. So what are some of your highlights that we have to look at here?
I think the easiest way to start, right, is 13-14, because it's just a patch that we jumped ahead of. Most of the things globally seem rather similar, but even on 13-14, there has been like less of a prio on Kai'Sa. Xayah still strong, Tristana prio super high. And of course the tank junglers. And I think that is just the biggest shift coming into 13-15, is that we're getting that Sejuani nerf, Maokai nerf probably will still be played, and Rel will get nerfed. And removing these tanks all of a sudden opens up a completely different playing field when it comes to the jungle position.
Absolutely, and it's not like any of these OPs suddenly will not be champions that you want to pick. Some of them did get adjustments, but in the end, they're still very good champions for what they offer when they finally get in there as well. Also, of course, we saw some lethality changes. Don't know if we'll be seeing too much of lethality Caitlyn, as we've seen a bit in solo queue and any other in that regard. But for pro play, and speaking of solo queue, of course, I know you've looked at a lot of accounts for some of our players here to see what we can expect of them. So what have you been finding with your scouting?
So basically, it's like, I always love doing this because I think you see the similarities, you see the parallels of what people are playing, because of course they are screaming and playing against each other. So you get to see these patterns of champions that will be for sure played. But the main pattern that stands out right away is that all junglers are playing some form of AP jungle, which kind of highlights the fact that, oh, the mid laners that people are going to be playing are the AD ones. We saw the Jace, we saw the Tristana. Maybe it will get expanded to the Yone and even go so far to, of course, Naafiri. Naafiri jungle, plain and simple, just kind of garbage on the patch. This is a champion that just needs a lot of gold, but you can see the trends. A lot of Nidalee gameplay might scare a lot of people because on stage might look different. 3 weeks of scrim might give you some fake data. Taliyah the same way. Diana, therefore, Elioya and Yike. These are champions that both of them have played in the past and like super much. But at the same time, when these champions are being picked, the Nidalees and the Talias and maybe the Dianas, this is where Kha'Zix will also find more room to be played, Viego, and also sometimes Kindred. I think that without the tank junglers, the jungle pool will be a lot more dynamic, but I expect to see a lot of Ivern and Maokai still.
So you talk a bit about Naafiri. Now that champion seems like a bit of a stat checker, needs a lot of gold as well on that. Is that something, because we're seeing it in solo queue, but is it something we'll be seeing in the LEC?
I'm so certain that we're going to see it. Is it good? I'm not so sure. It reminds me so much of Qiyana of old, the champion that could just farm and then reach lethal ranges super easily. But I think that this champion has some counterplay, but I think it's very good that each mid laner has put some time into it just so they know that what they might be up against, because they need to bring that information back to the team. But following the other trends, you see the Yone as well, something that's been played by 5 out of 6 mid laners. And then, of course, the classics. You see some outliers with caps on Ziggs, played more than 5 games. And then the usual suspects with Xerath, Azir, Jace. I know Tristana's not on here, but everyone plays it. Still some LB. Even after the static shift nerfs, I think this is the champion that still is going to utilize it. But I think the main change-up that we might see in the beginning that teams are going to test out is just AD mid, AP jungle, commit into full topside with the Renekton and the Aatrox and the Jax that we talked about and the K'Sante, and we're going to have very brawl-heavy games. I'm hoping to see some Karthus, maybe even some Fiddlesticks from Yike if he's feeling crazy that he wants to instill fear into the enemies.
To summarize it, it kind of sounds like we just want a good mixed damage profile, and that damage profile can come from different iteration if you go AP jungle and AD mid and all of that. But it's also going to be interesting to see how Excel can adapt to the new patch after a 2023 season where nobody really expected them to be here. So this is the story of a back-to-back 10th place to a summer finals.
XL Esports. From the worst team in the league to only one series away from making Worlds. Their journey in 2023 has been a roller coaster of emotions, and it started with a lot of hype around their star-packed roster going into the year. But the super team that was promised never delivered, and winter ended in a disaster with only one win in 10th place.
XL, your winter split ends here.
Tough pill to swallow. This split was like not what I expected at all.
Sadly for XL, they didn't blossom in spring. And although it started with a win versus Fnatic, the split ended with heartbreak and another 10th place finish.
And it's looking bad, it's looking worse, it's looking disastrous for XL.
Changes had to be made for one last attempt of salvaging the year. A jump from 10th to 2nd place was the minimum needed to have a realistic chance to go to the season finals. A big ask from a team that looked gone at the end of spring. But time and FLICKR can heal all wounds. The mid laner joined in spring alongside Limit to replace VTO and Targamas, with Peach picking up the mantle from Xerxes in the jungle ahead of summer. Despite the changes, nobody believed a comeback was possible.
I can see how they would get out of D tier and up to as high as B tier, all very plausible. I am not going to give them that benefit of the doubt after the 2 splits we watched.
Yeah, I just don't think that Peach and Abbedagge solved the issues. They didn't know any sort of game plan in the early stages, an early game. Their mid game, they're all over the joint. Their team fighting, everyone was going different directions every single time.
And in the first week, XL showed no signs of life with a 0-3 start. But as the saying goes, always for a team with nothing to lose.
Now up, more CC, Alioya dashing away, the GA is propped. The Nexus Tower still surviving, Kazi's gonna fall to Limit, and now the chase begins for XL. And the Nexus Towers are everyone's kryptonite this game. Patrick flashing away, trying to escape, chase these clutches, and Abbedagge was able to sweep away Niski, which means the Destiny doesn't come in. Abbedagge going forward once again, Hylissang dashing in, Niski just able to survive, but Hylissang is not.
Somehow, after starting 0-3, XL managed to turn it around by winning 5 of their remaining 6 games to secure a top 4 seed going into the group stage. Players and fans started to believe in the miracle, but an exit in groups would still mean the end of XL's year. However, this lineup and their story was far from over. XL was unstoppable in the group stage, going undefeated with a 4-0 record against Mad Lions and SK Gaming. They went on to the opening series of the summer playoffs versus G2 Esports. With a win, XL would do the unthinkable and make it to the LEC season finals. What we witnessed was the best series in the LEC 2023 season so far.
Patrick with a Featherstorm, Cavs trying to get away, but he's stunned up, he's locked up, and the shutdown goes over to Patrick, and what a superb fight it was from the XL AD carry. Peach is flashing forward for another taste of victory. Abbedagge doing everything he can to carry XL to the finals, and Summer is looking to make it 4 and looking to send XL into the lower bracket.
A heartbreaking loss, but through their amazing run in groups, what started as an impossible dream was now within reach. All XL needed was a win against Fnatic, another team that had seen a resurgence in summer.
Goes godlike as he kills up one and Omni tries to get one in response. He gets it, goes into the bush, the trigger sleep. Enough! Ono survives, the double kills him off. No one trying to do it again, but he's pulled. XL are going to finals.
From back-to-back 10th place finishes, to now only being 1 series win away from reaching Worlds for the first time in the organization's history. XL's comeback is one for the history books. But their journey is far from over, as they set their sights on Montpellier, Occitanie, and Worlds.
Wow, Verius, what an amazing breakdown. And I think also very necessary for maybe people that have not been paying that much attention throughout the whole year. But now when you get it laid out for you, Yamato, it is so incredibly impressive what this XL roster, I should say, org team has managed to do over this year.
No, I envy it. You know, having that memory in the memory bank, you just know that this is something they're going to keep forever. I feel like this format really opens up for something like this because it just carries so much intensity, and they were allowed through the time that they had off, so to speak, to make the correct adjustments and then turn into the beast that they became at the end of the season.
I still think it's so crazy how much pressure they were under, not just to do well in summer, but to get 2nd place to actually pull that off. And it came after a whole year where they kept shifting around pieces. This wasn't like overnight something suddenly clicked, right? Like the winter split was a complete disaster for them. Then they bring in Limit. Halfway through spring, Abbedagge comes in as well with the new coaching staff behind too, but they didn't have enough time, I think, with Abbedagge in the roster. So it wasn't until they had that break during MSI where they also brought in Peach and could gel together that we saw them really take off.
It's so interesting when you also look at their opponents today, the Mad Lions. We put everything here on the timeline because the Mad Lions started good, then it went better. They won spring, and then in summer, it's just been pretty awful all round.
Well, it's crazy how the format just it carries so much pressure because it's so evident if you don't perform. I think that performance always has fluctuated in the LEC, even in the previous formats. But the teams that had the named players were always very good at adjusting themselves to find peak performance when it matters. Now peak performance just matters all the time. Looking at even their story in spring, they had to play a tiebreaker against Team Heretics to even qualify and then to win the whole championship. And I think that it's been punishing all along. And I think this mystery about Mad Lions in terms of how high peak they have also makes it so curious about how low of a floor they have. So coming into the day after 3 weeks of practice, I have no idea what to expect from them.
You're right, like highest peaks, lowest floors, maybe? I don't know. Sometimes with the Mad
I feel like
Lions,
that's kind of classic Mad Lions. So like sometimes they'll come into like after regular season, they won't be so hot, like in spring, right? And then one thing goes their way, you know, Fnatic don't auto-attack an Nexus, and all of a sudden they go on an insane run and lift the title. So both of our teams have shown within this year already that they can have those insane peaks, but you have to peak on this patch, right? The entire format all year long has been quick bursts, 6 weeks throughout the year, 4 weeks now. You have to gel, you have to have a good read, and it's got to work from the get-go.
Mad Lions have said, we're working towards this. We want to make sure that across the year, energy is spent correctly so that we can peak correctly. Also, there's a secret agent not mentioned on this graphic, by the way.
Yes,
Amato.
yes, Cass. It's
Cass?
like they just.
Oh yeah, they added him.
There he is.
He wasn't there in rehearsal.
You know, Cass was in Mad in the past. He had a little stint over in North America. They just ended his contract for some reason. We never know why.
We don't talk about that.
But he just came over to XL, and you know the coaching staff of XL have just done such a fantastic job. And I'm wondering if Cass can use some of that secret sauce, what he knows about Mad, to leverage that into a win.
His old colleague, of course, the coach for Mad, is standing by with Draco. So let's see what he thinks.
Thank you very much, Shox. I am joined by Mac. This is the very serious interview. We couldn't figure out how to sit in the chairs, so we're both going to sit very far forward, which makes it feel a little more intense maybe than it needs to, but it is the season finals, so maybe some intensity is necessary. Mac, to kick things off, I feel like this has been such a weird year for the Mad Lions because every time we talk to you, you're either on top of the world or like in the pits of despair. And you got this second chance at life in season finals because of how fantastic you did in spring. For people at home, they're still keeping track of the 9-loss streak. How are you handling that? Why are we seeing such highs and lows this year for Mad Lions? What's your take on that?
Oof, I mean, I think it's performance is a crazy thing. And I think that a good team is always, it's a bit of a cliche at this point, right? But a good team is more than the sum of its parts, right? And I think we are so emblematic of that as a team that when we are on the same page, when we are firing all cylinders, when we're doing the same play at the same time, when we have like a kind of shared vision on how we want to play the game, we can be so good. And when we lack that, we can be so out of sorts. And I think I think that shows up a lot in how kind of united Elyoya and Hylissang are. I think that's true of most teams, to be honest, because I think jungle support are usually kind of like the engine of the team, right? In terms of who has free resources on the map, who has the ability to move on the map, it's jungle support. And so when those two are coordinated, it can completely transform a team. And I think that's very much the case with us as well.
I think it's excellent that you identify that because I think that's one of the big things that the analyst desk has been talking about as well. How do you get two players who are, I mean, both Hilly and Elyoya have very clear ways they want to play the game. How do you get guys like that on the same page to make sure that they are working together, both going towards the same objective?
That has been our big challenge this year, for sure. I think the best way for us has been to find other teams that inspire us and use that to get buy-in for the players for, okay, we may not necessarily see everything the same way, but this team is, I don't know, the best in the world at utilizing Baron or securing Baron, like early Barons, for example. And this is how they do it. These are the steps, these are the conditions. And we can all agree on those because we really like this team and we think they're great, right? So a big part of our challenge as a coaching staff has been finding good mirrors for Mad Lions. You know, which are the teams that Mad Lions can emulate most effectively?
So looking elsewhere for examples to kind of bring your players together. I really like that strategy. Talking about today, matchup versus XL, a team that has just continued to surprise people. Is there anything that you think that they were doing particularly well at the end of last split that you really have your eye on when we come into this series today?
I think Excel honestly just plays League of Legends like by the numbers, you know? They play by the book, they do all of the steps, and they're super objective focused. I think they're very disciplined. I think they've had very coherent drafts. I think they are a classic example of a team that's more than the sum of its parts.
There you go. 2 teams that are more than the sum of the parts. So I guess last question. Mad Lions, coming off a decent break, a lot of practice, a brand new patch. Are you firing on all cylinders today?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mac. That's all I could ask for. Back to you at the desk, Shocks.
Thank you. Decent break. 9 games lost, break, then a break, then coming back. No, seriously. Mac, of course, saying it's going to have to be different, and we are very much dependent on how everything goes on the day. That goes for every team, but he specifically called out Elyoya and Hilly. And we also wanted to talk about the support, so I think we should start there. It is something that we've seen that has been lacking for Mad Lions, something that usually works well, right, Yamato?
No, for sure. I feel like this split has been very, very disappointing when you think about Hilly, but his counterpart, Limit, you know, he had such a glow-up. Like, in terms of how the meta kind of shifted, Alistar, Rel, these are the Limit classics, and he's been really, together with Patrick, really piecing together what XL kind of lacked in the previous splits.
It goes together for all of XL pretty much. This patch was a godsend for them, but for Limit specifically, comfort comes with it, and with comfort, complacency, and with that complacency, overextension at times as well. But Limit's not the only one who does this, of course. In terms of the playstyle that we're going to be seeing on this patch with these 2 supports, it's going to be all in. And honestly, that is just Hilly's playstyle. He's going to be better at playing that.
I think Hilly, you know, when I think of Hilly, I think of Rakan. I think of course, the melee supports. Right now on our screen, we see him playing Milio a little bit too far forward. Usually you want to tether to your AD carry in a different way, but he's just kind of drifting in the front line, which is so, you know, so classic Hilly. I feel like coming into this series, you know, this is a player that's been to the World Championship ever since, you know, 2018 when he joined Fnatic. I don't think that coming into this series that he's going to slow down. I think these 3 weeks, I'm expecting, just knowing Hilly, that he's going to bounce back and deliver what we expect from him on the melee supports.
Yeah, I think both for Hilly and for Matt, it's all about will they peak and what will that peak look like? And peaks, that's the top. So let's talk about the top laners as well. Odoamne versus Chasey. It's an interesting backstory, right? Because wasn't Chasey brought in to kind of change the landscape of tops?
Pretty much. You know, it's like Chasey was brought in to pretty much get rid of players like Odoamne here. You know, we had the classic top laners that kept going to the World Championship. We had the Odoamnes, the BBs, and the Wunders, and the whatevers, you know, and Chasey was brought in because, oh, internationally, we can't compete so well in the top side. But now things have kind of shifted, you know. Chasey did super well in winter and in spring, but now in summer, you know, he's looking kind of sloppy. And now if you look at the matchup, you kind of have to favor Odoamne, right?
Absolutely agree. I think Odo's story has just been absolutely phenomenal as well, from where he came with, of course, Rogue, lifting that trophy, and then to finding himself in a 10th to 10th in a situation where it just looked like his career was going to be over. But then from what we saw in summer was that we got a patch that was Odo's bread and butter with the Rumble. We saw his Gnar performance, and it's been a while, I gotta say, since a top laner completely 1v9'd, which essentially brought Excel to where they are today. Had it not been for Odo stepping up, they wouldn't even be here.
So just looking at how everything has panned out, I know that you mentioned many times how the jungle proximity has changed, you know, between the splits. I think Chasey has had a harder time to adjust to, of course, the Rumble. We saw it on the screen where Oscarine is solo kills on Rumble. If you get solo kill on Rumble, FF. Jace is not as strong, you know. People send it to the mid lane. You know, it's been a tough period for Mad Lions altogether, so of course the individuals are going to look worse too.
Yeah, you look at some of the stats up there. Chasey has just started getting less resources in summer as well from the rest of his team, and that has obviously halted his performance a bit. I think when he's going up against Odoamne today, you can't really let this happen. Odo, through summer, has just been the better top laner. Odo is the better top laner. If Chasey is left out to dry, you're going to be having issues. We saw what happened when he played against Oscarine, and that just wasn't it.
Chasey has become what he feared the most, just an EU top. So we'll see. I think we can pull up the champion pools as well and just kind of the ones they share, because we're getting close to the picks and bans as well. I'm having a hard time thinking how this matchup's going to go, not just in the top laners. And I think, of course, the question mark of the draft is really big, but it's hard to predict because of the way Mad Lions ended and the way XL ended. But how much of a chance do you give either team?
Well, I was speaking to Pat while he was getting his makeup, which of course is one of the coaches of Mad Lions, and he was saying that they had a great break as well. They went on a boat trip together. Everyone was having a good time. The best scrimmage or practice they've had in ages. It seems like people are more happy now as well, which is definitely showing throughout the gameplay. So he was saying that he felt confident coming into the day. But honestly, who knows? There's been a break, and Mad Lions, it's such a hard team to really put in a box.
It's so tricky because XL have been so sharp at coming in hard into patches. This has been their strength. strength. Mad Lions on the other side, they're just a mystery. We don't know what kind of Mad Lions we'll see today. Hopefully a good one. I hope they take it to 5 games.
I mean, hopefully from the both teams we see a good performance. They will be a little bit like guinea pigs, I want to say also, because they'll be the first teams that'll show us what they want to do on the patch. But the stakes couldn't be higher. There's a spot in Montpellier and a trip to South Korea on the line. Without further ado, it's time to kick off the first ever LEC season finals.
The inevitability of G2's dominance is undeniable.
This weekend marks the beginning of the first tournament of its kind.
For the 11th time, G2 are your champions.
The reigning champions G2, crowned victor in both the winter and summer seasons, will face off against BDS, a team that reached their inaugural finals but found themselves finishing in the 5th spot in the recent season.
BDS, 1 win away from being your champions.
Mad Lions, winners of the spring split, but finishing 7th in summer, now face a confrontation with XL. This formidable opponent, in the face of countless past failings, has miraculously shattered expectations to claim their rightful spot in the season finals.
XL are going to finals.
Meanwhile, both Fnatic and SK await their turn. Fnatic, after a tumultuous start, managed to salvage a commendable 3rd place finish. Meanwhile, SK, driven by the burning desire to prove themselves, have tasted playoff glory once and faced the challenge of group stages twice.
The Emperor's Divine whiffs completely. 1, 2, 3 members down. SK dunk on Fnatic. And Oscar twisting in the wings. Look at the piercing the shot block.
Every player dreams of playing on the big stage. The LEC Grand Final, Worlds.
Dead from below, they're not low enough yet. But in the end, Hot Summer will fall. And Mad Lions are way too hungry for the win. Oscar in with an arm into the wall, up to the hookup. Is enough to kill off the Jackson. That's everything. There's been stopping XL. Amber slides in. And XL look to glide their way to the season final.
But only those rising to the occasion in the season finals will earn the right to follow in the footsteps of Titans.
The trigger, all the BDS immediately follow up.
Charm sidestep, but the Arctic Assault is not. It's a triple, it's a quadra, it's G2 destroying XL.
Who will have the hunger and the skill to finally take home the LEC trophy?